Where we left off the story of Yusuf alayhi salam is that he's inside of the prison. He just interpreted the dream for the two men who are in the prison that asked him for the dream's interpretation. After interpreting the dream, he says, Yusuf, to the one who he sees is going to be freed and he's going to survive, because he said that the other one's going to die based on his dream. He said, mention me to your master, the king. And when you go out, mention me. He might be able to help him get out of prison. Does that make sense? Now, what actually happens is that the man, when he gets out of prison, he forgets about Yusuf alayhi salam. He forgets about him, right? I mean, he's one of those guys, he's close to the king now, he's out of prison, and he forgot to mention to him that Yusuf is a man in prison, and he helped me interpret this dream, and can you please free him? So anyway, life carries on. One day, the king has a dream. The third dream in the story. فقال الملك إني أرى 7 بقرات سمان يأكلهن 7 عجاف و7 سنبلات خضر وأخرى يابسات. The king says, I have a dream. In the dream, he sees 7 fat cows, and they are being eaten by 7 skinny ones. And he mentions the rest of the dream. He asks those who are with him, is there anyone here that can explain the dream to me? Is there anyone here that can interpret this dream for me? It's a strange dream, right? One of the men who was there was the guy that Yusuf alayhi salam met in prison. And Yusuf interpreted his dream. So what does Yusuf alayhi salam, what does the man do? He remembers. He says, I know a guy back in prison, I'm going to go ask him. So he comes running to Yusuf. And what did he say to Yusuf? Yusuf, أيها الصديق أفتنا في 7 بقرات سمان يأكلهن 7 عجاف. He said, give us an answer, interpret the dream for us, of 7 cows that are big, 7 cows that are fat, and they are being eaten by 7 skinny cows. And the rest of the dream. And I feel like sometimes this part of the story, it confuses people, but it's all linked to this issue. So it's not a dream interpreting class. I just want to stick to some relevant points because we have to finish the class by today. So I'm just mentioning the first part of the dream. He says, tell us. Now, what did Yusuf ask this guy to do? What was the last discussion that Yusuf had with this guy in prison? What was it? He said, tell the king about me. Help me get out, He's asking for help. The man comes back. No, as we say in my language, we say, no salam, na dua. We say, he didn't say salam, he didn't pray for me either. He just came and he just asked me for whatever it was. He just said, just tell us about the dream. Now, would you not be annoyed in this situation? Imagine how many more years Yusuf spent in prison because of this. How many more years went by? The guy, he works, he's with the king. He could have got him out in a second with the permission of Allah. And he forgot. He forgot. So, would you not be annoyed in this situation? Would you not be annoyed? But look at the good manners of Yusuf alayhi salam. Wallahi, he didn't even bring it up. He didn't even mention it. Straight away, he interpreted the dream for him. He told him what the dream meant. It meant that you guys are going to have 7 years. The 7 fat cows, they represent 7 years of prosperity. There's going to be food. There's going to be rizq. You guys are going to really have prosperity. And then the 7 skinny cows that were eating the 7 fat cows, what was that? He said, then after that you're going to have 7 years of drought. Not 7 years of drought, but 7 years of a lack of prosperity. The food is going to be short, there's going to be shortage. People are going to really struggle. Does that make sense? They're going to what? Really struggle. So 7 years of good, and then 7 years of bad. He just tells him the dream, and he keeps it moving. And that shows you, brothers and sisters, sometimes someone does something wrong. Well, we should have an attitude of we should have an attitude of just being ghafil. You know what ghafil means? Heedless. We shouldn't be heedless when it comes to the commands of Allah. But when it comes to people's mistakes, just be heedless. Just be like, oh, I never even saw it. And this is very good manners. And something that comes to mind here, I'll give you an example. It's something that is mentioned in the book Al-Fusul Adab by Ibn Aqil rahimahullah ta'ala. It's a book on manners. He mentioned, like when someone has an aib, someone has a deficiency, or someone does something a bit embarrassing, it's from good manners to just... And this is someone doing something embarrassing, or someone having a little deficiency. This is not even talking about a violation. Like, this was a violation what happened to Yusuf alayhi salam. And Yusuf is ignoring that. But there's things that are just normal things that even those we don't ignore. For example, he mentioned if a person wants to pass wind, if a person wants to just, let one rip, and we have to laugh. Why? This is very bad manners. It's disgusting. This is from the manners of the mushrikun. Like, a person just let one go, just ignore it. He's embarrassed. It's a natural thing. Okay, it just came out, wrong place, wrong time. And we should not bring these things up. Same way, if a person stacks, we have to what? Just laugh. Well, you thought I didn't see that? Yeah, I saw that. We should be this is not a characteristic of the believers. When someone does something wrong, whether it be an aib, whether it be just something that is just like, something that's just a bit uncouth, like culturally, or whether it's a sin that they've done, we should kind of just turn the other, just look the other way. Does that make sense? Especially when they've done these wrong things to us. When they do it to us, wa alaykum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. When they do these things to us, we should just overlook it. Does that make sense? Anyway, Yusuf alayhi salam, he interprets the dream. When he interprets the dream, the king says, when he hears about the interpretation of the dream, he realizes this is an amazing guy. Where is he? He's in prison. Bring him to me. He says, what? Bring him to me. Yusuf says, no. Not coming out like that. He was accused of what? These women, they put him in jail, right? They tried to flip it on him, as if he was trying to do something with them. He said, go and ask about those women, the ones that cut their fingers. The one that cut their fingers. He wants his name to be cleared first. He doesn't want to come out of prison with his head low. He wants to come out of prison with his head high. Clear, his name cleared, freed from any blemish or stain on it. So they bring the women together and they inquire about them. And what do the women say? The women, they own up to their mistake. Wa alaykum salam. They own up to their mistake. The women, they own up to the mistake. And specifically the wife of the Aziz, who was the main one who tried to seduce him, قالت امرأة العزيز الآن حصحص الحق. She said, now that the situation became clear, أنا راودته عن نفسه. I wanted him for myself. وإنه لمن الصادقين. And verily, Yusuf was from the truthful ones. وما أبرئ نفسي. She says, and I do not try to free myself from blame. Why? إن النفس لأمارة بالسوء إلا ما رحم ربي. She said, I don't try to free myself, my soul, from blame. Why? Because the soul, what does it do? It commands the evil. The soul, it commands the person to do evil. So number one, the woman, she owned up to her mistake. So is she forgiven now, inshallah? She's forgiven. التائب من الذنب كما لا ذنب له. A person repents from a sin as if they never done the sin in the first place. Does that make sense? Sometimes people do some crazy things, but they can come back. I told you the story of Yusuf. It's all about people doing what? People doing madness. And going from a station of being so low to then being so high. I told you the brothers, they wanted to initially kill Yusuf, and then what do? They threw him inside of the well. But in the dream, how did Allah show the dream to Yusuf? The brothers were what? Stars. Aren't stars something beautiful? Don't stars beautify the sky? Allah said, وَلَقَدْ زَيَّنَّا السَّمَاءَ الدُّنْيَا بِمَصَابِيحَ. Allah said, we beautified the sky of this dunya with stars. In the hadith, the Prophet referred to the scholars being like stars. So, stars is something beautiful. But these brothers, what? They were criminals at the beginning. They tried to kill their own brother. But what? Later on, they became like stars. They became great men. Does that make sense? So you can come from a beginning that's very low. Don't write yourself off and don't write other people off. This woman, she wanted to do zina with Yusuf alayhi salam. And now what? She owned up to her mistake. A point I want to mention here in the ayah إِنَّ النَّفْسَ لَأَمَّارَةٌ بِالسُّوءِ. The soul, it commands the person to do evil. So you have to understand two things now. You have two enemies. Shaitan, and the shayateen are of two types. What are they? The shayateen are of how many types? And who are they? They are shaitan, the shayateen from the humans, the human devils, and the jinn devils. The human devil is that guy that tells you to do wrong. That guy encourages you to do bad. That guy who comes and offers you cigarettes. That girl is a shaitan that comes DMing you, keeps messaging you. You keep trying to get away from this haram and fix up, but then she keeps messaging you. That's shaitan, she's the devil. Does that make sense? So the shaitan is of two types. And the shaitan is one type of enemy the human has. The other type of enemy the human has is what? His own soul. The soul, it wants evil. It likes evil. Does that make sense? So some people think, in Ramadan, why am I still doing madness? Even though the big jinn are closed. And it's true, not all of the shayateen are locked up. It's only the big ones. It's only the big ones. But even then, let's just say all of them are locked up. You yourself, my bro, your own soul wants the evil. So now you have to do two things here. And the ayah tells you two things you have to do. Or the ayah shows you two things that you have to do. إِنَّ النَّفْسَ لَأَمَّارَةٌ بِالسُّوءِ. Because the nafs commands you to do evil, what do you have to do? You have to fight with it. This is what you call jihadun nafs. This is what you call fighting with your soul. Fighting with your nafs. Combating it. Fighting it. Don't let it win. Don't let it overpower you. The soul wants you to sleep at night. You fight with it. No, I'm going to get up and pray. The soul wants you to look at a woman. No, I'm not going to fight with you. I'm going to look down. To fight with your own desires. Does that make sense? And Ramadan is one of the best ways, by the way, to fight with the soul. You know why? Because the desires that the soul pushes you towards are desires from the body. And when you starve the body, what do? You make the body weak, so its desires become weak. And the heart, what do? You fill it up with Quran. So you feed the heart with so much that what? The heart becomes strong now, and the heart can overpower the body. Because the heart has been fed by Quran, by dhikr, and the body's been starved because of the fasting. Does that make sense? So now the heart is stronger than the body, and it can overpower it. Does that make sense? So brothers, don't eat too much. Sisters, don't eat too much. The Salaf as-Salih used to say that, Imam Ahmad said, I've never seen a man who eats and to his stomach's full and he has a soft heart. Imam, Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhuma, he said, since I became Muslim, I never filled my stomach. Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah ta'ala, he said, 20 years I've not filled my stomach. Why? There's a big connection between filling your stomach and what? And what? And not being in control of your desires. Fill your heart with Quran. Fill your heart with dhikr, so it can overpower your nafs. That's the first thing. You fight with it, and I just gave you a tip. Don't eat too much. Okay? The second thing, yes? How much you should eat? So the Prophet said in the hadith that a person should eat the effect to yuqimnu sulbah, enough to be able to keep his back straight. Sometimes you're starving, you can't even stand up straight. The Prophet said, eat enough, just to be able to just stand up and do your thing. The Prophet said, but if you need a little bit more than that, he said, فَثُلُثُ لِطَعَامِهِ وَثُلُثُ لِشَرَابِهِ وَثُلُثُ لِنَفْسِهِ أو كما قال. The Prophet said 1/3, and this is the most you should eat, not more than this. 1/3 of your stomach should be for food, the other 1/3 of your stomach should be for water, and the other 1/3 of your stomach should be there for just air to breathe. So, when you're eating and you can just feel, I've eaten too much. There's no room for the air anymore. Does that make sense? So you've got to be observant of your stomach. You know what I'm saying? Eat to the extent where what? Where, just 1/3 and the other 1/3 is water, and then you have 1/3 of space. And they say, generally speaking, that a person's stomach is the size of a fist. So put your fist inside. Some of our stomachs are a lot bigger than that. But this is a normal person. Yeah? His stomach is the size of his fist. So put your fist inside of a bowl. 1/3 of that you should eat. 1/3 of that you should try to eat. Does that make sense? That's the first thing. Is to fight with your nafs. The second thing, what did the ayah say? إِلَّا مَا رَحِمَ رَبِّي. That the soul commands the evil except for what? Except when Allah Azza wa Jal, He bestows His mercy. To show you that your soul is going to make you do evil things unless Allah has mercy on you to protect you from your own soul. So then the second thing that you need to do is beg Allah, ask Allah to give your soul purity, to purify your soul. And that's why the Prophet taught us this dua. You've all heard it in Ramadan. Brothers, memorize this dua. Allahumma ati nafsi taqwaha. Oh Allah, make my soul pious. وَزَكِّهَا أَنْتَ خَيْرَ مَنْ زَكَّاهَا. Purify my soul, you're the best of those who purify. أَنْتَ وَلِيُّهَا وَمَوْلَاهَا. You are the guardian of my soul. You are the guardian of it. Brothers, wallahi, make these du'as. These du'as, if you notice, it's a common theme. You can't stop sinning yourself. You can't guide yourself. You need Allah to do it. That's why every day in the salah you say, Ihdina sirat al-mustaqim. Guide us, Ya Allah, to the right path. You can't be guided unless if Allah gives you guidance. You have to ask for it. The Prophet would make this dua so much. Ya muqallib al-qulub, thabbit qalbi ala dinik. Oh, the one who turns the hearts, turn my heart firm upon your religion. Make these du'as. Beg Allah, Allah guide me. The dua that we learned the other day. What was it? Who can stand up and say it? Who can stand up and say it? Daniel, stand up, say it. Come on, man. Stand up. Stand up, bro. No, you're doing good. وأنا أعلم. Good. اللهم إني أعوذ بك أن أشرك بك وأنا أعلم. Allah, I seek refuge in you so that you protect me from doing shirk, and I know. You will fall into shirk unless Allah protects you from it. Ibrahim, he said, Rabbi junubani wa bani an na'bud al-asnam. He said, Allah, take my children and me and place us on one janib. Janib means one side of the earth. And place the idols that are worshipped on the other side of the earth. Protect me from worshipping idols. Brothers, Ibrahim went and he destroyed idols with his own hand. Is there anyone who would be least likely to worship idols other than him? Like, he's scared. He said, Rabbi. Rabbi is a name of Allah that you call out when you're in distress. Rabbi junubani wa bani an na'bud al-asnam. Allah, put me and idol worship on two ends of the earth, and my children, protect them from it. Brothers, you have to ask for guidance. You have to ask for help. Man saying, I can't stop smoking weed, I can't stop watching pornography, I can't stop drinking, I can't stop talking to girls. Did you raise your hands and ask Allah? Did you do it consistently? Did you do it every day? Did you do it at the times when the dua is accepted? Ask! Beg Him! And Allah Azza wa Jalla is one who will respond. Does that make sense? Now I want to mention a fa'idah here. Allah Azza wa Jalla, He referred to the king of Yusuf in the Quran as what? Al-Malik. وَقَالَ الْمَلِكِ إِنِّي رَأَى سَبْعَ بَقَرَاتٍ. The king said, I saw seven cows. Question. Is the story of Joseph, the story of Yusuf told in the Bible? Is it? Is it? Is it? No more than Ari here. It is. Well, I know we're getting really dumb nowadays, general knowledge. You didn't know that? You don't knew that, right? Yeah. You know they mentioned the stories of the prophets. You know this, right? But obviously we can't rely on their accounts. So anyway, the story of Yusuf, his name is Joseph, right? In the Bible, right? Okay, so the story of Joseph is mentioned. And also it mentions about the king. But does anyone know what the king is called in the Bible? The king is called Pharaoh. But did Allah call him Pharaoh? What did Allah call him? Al-Malik. قال الملك, Allah said. Now pay attention. When it's the story of Musa, what does Allah refer to the king as? اذهبوا إلى فرعون إنه طغى. قال فرعون. Allah referred to him as the Pharaoh. Allah referred to the king of Joseph as the king, but He referred to the king of Moses as the Pharaoh. The Bible didn't make a distinction. The Bible called them both Pharaoh. Who was right? Allah. Recently, it was discovered that Yusuf alayhi salam, at his time there was an Asiatic race called the Hyksos which governed over Egypt. Centuries before the pharaohs even came. And Musa came 400 years after approximately, and at that time the pharaohs were there. So look at how precise the Quran is. The question we ask is, this knowledge which was in hieroglyphics since the year 300 Common Era, 300 which is the 4th century, since that year hieroglyphics was dead. When the Romans invaded Egypt, they absolutely destroyed any sign of hieroglyphics, which was the Egyptian language, because of the connection that it had to paganism, because obviously the Christians had become, the Romans had become Catholics, so they had become Christians at that time, and they were pagan anyway as it was, but they wanted to get rid of this paganism, so they destroyed. Hieroglyphics became a dead language. It was absolutely dead. And the Prophet came about the late 500, early 600 CE. So 300 years after, 3 centuries after this language is dead, the Prophet comes and the Quran is revealed, and Allah says, قال الملك, the king said. There's no way the Prophet could have decoded and known these hieroglyphics. After the Prophet in the 18th century, when they discovered the hieroglyphics and they found them, they still couldn't understand because the language is just pictures. Until there was a soldier that was digging, and when he's digging, he found something called the Rosetta Stone. The Rosetta Stone is a tablet on which the hieroglyphics is written, and at the bottom the Greek is written. So you can, it's basically like a translation. You can decode the language based on, so if you know Greek, if you learn Greek, you can learn hieroglyphics basically. And then they decoded, and then they worked all of these things out. Otherwise Egyptology was dead. But look how precise the Quran is. The Quran said that was the king, and Musa had, his was the Pharaoh. And to show you that what? This could have only been from Allah. Okay, second thing. As I want to mention as a side benefit. It's not part of the story of Yusuf, but it's connected to this. Allah Azza wa Jal, He mentioned in the Quran that Fir'aun had a minister and his name was Haman. Fir'aun had a minister and his name was Haman. And what did Fir'aun tell this minister to do? He said, build for me a tower so I can go to the top and look at the God of Moses. So I can go and look at the God of Moses. Right? For centuries the Christians mocked the Quran and they mocked Islam. And they said, these people have just copied the Bible. Why? Because in the Bible there's a book called the Book of Esther. In the Old Testament, it's called the Book of Esther, and it mentions the story of a minister, Haman, who was instructed to build a tower, but it was the Tower of Babylon. And the Babylonian kingdom, and that story was based 1,000 years after Musa. So they said, look, you just copied the story from us, and you got it wrong. The tower was the Tower of Babel in Babylon. It was Babylon, and it wasn't Egypt. You got it wrong. So not only did you copy us, but you copied it wrong. So they mocked and they mocked and they mocked. In the 16th century, the church, the Vatican, announced that the Book of Esther doesn't have any historical value. It doesn't have any historical basis. It's just a book with stories, maybe with good morals to try and encourage people to do good. You know how you have Aesop's fables? You don't know about fables, right? Say, wallahi, honestly, brothers, what is happening with the education system nowadays? You don't know about fables? No. You never heard about the fable of the ant and the grasshopper? Wallahi, and the fox and the hare and the turtle. It's the fables, man. Stories with lessons in there. Yeah, education system, man. Okay, this primary school stuff. I remember the Aesop's Fables class from year 5. I remember it from year 5, subhanAllah. This is not hard stuff. Anyway, the point is, it's just fairy tales, basically, yeah, with that good stories. Not fairy tales, but stories with good morals. They said that's what the Book of Esther is. Now, the Christians claimed that you copied us, copied it wrong, and not only that, you copied a book that even we're telling you is false. Now, if the Muslims were really copying the Bible, they would have followed and said, oh yeah, it's true, it's not historically correct, it's inaccurate. But the Muslims held firm because it's the book of Allah. Until in the 19th century, or the 20th century, sorry, there was a professor called Dr. Maurice Bucaille, rahimahullah ta'ala, who was a French man who later became a Muslim because of these things. He wanted to research the Quran and science and all these things. So he came across this name Haman in the Quran. He said, Egyptology is preserved. The Egyptians preserved their language, the ministers, everything's preserved. He said, I'm going to go to Egyptology experts and I'm going to ask them, what does this name Haman mean? He went, if I'm not mistaken, to a German professor, and he said to him, the name Haman, it means, he opened a book and he explained to the name Haman means, it means someone who's in charge of construction. Someone who's in charge of building and constructing. And what did Allah say that Fir'aun told him to do? He told him to go build a tower. He said to him, not only that, he said, inside the museum in Vienna, there is a monument in which the name Haman has been inscribed in hieroglyphics next to Fir'aun. And not only that, it mentions on that monument that Haman had a very close relationship with Fir'aun, and that he was the one whose job was to build constructions and buildings for Fir'aun. Dr. Maurice Bucaille, rahimahullah, he said, what if I told you that there was a book that mentioned this 1400 years ago? He said, impossible. The language was dead. There was no Egyptology at the time. We just discovered it about it. And his time, just less than 100 years ago, we started to read these things. Impossible. Can't happen. He said, let me show you the Quran. But this book is from Allah. From so many different angles. It's perfection, precision, and it's a big blessing. Study it, learn it, seek knowledge, memorize it, dive into this book and let it open your heart and nourish it and cleanse it and be a guidance for you. And when you give da'wah, this book is enough to give da'wah with. Don't go to philosophy, don't go to all these other funny things that people go to. You don't need to. You can go straight to the Quran, of course, with the understanding of it, and give da'wah with it. As you people see, those you come to the 99 names of class, Allah class every morning. I make it a habit that every class we refute Christianity and we refute atheism through the Quran. Do we not do that every lesson to show you that all you have to do is know Allah's book? You don't have to know philosophy, you don't have to watch these Hyde Park videos, you don't have to go to these da'wah trainings or whatever. Just learn the Quran. Okay, coming back to the story. So Yusuf alayhi salam, وقال الملك ائتوني به أستخلصه لنفسي. The king said, bring him to me. He said, bring this man Yusuf to me. I want him for myself. He's so impressed with his interpretation of the dream. He said, I want this man exclusively, specifically for me. I want this man by my side. فَلَمَّا كَلَّمَهُ, when he spoke to Yusuf and he had a discussion with Yusuf, قال, he said, إِنَّكَ لَدَيْنَا مَكِينٌ أَمِينٌ. He said, today you are in higher rank and you are fully trusted. The king's looking at him like, you are trusted, we trust you and we look at you high at a high station. Brothers, look how Allah took Yusuf. He took him from where? In a well, in a house as a slave, being attacked by a woman who wanted to sleep with him, to being put in jail. Now this is the king of Egypt saying, إِنَّكَ لَدَيْنَا مَكِينٌ أَمِينٌ. Today you are trustworthy, we trust you Yusuf, and you are honored, you are high to us. Brothers and sisters, don't ever let down your deen. Don't ever let down your deen. This is through the deen. Yusuf only got this because of his deen. Because of his deen, every time. As Yusuf explains at the end, he said, إِنَّهُ مَن يَتَّقِي وَيَصْبِرْ. He said, this happened because I feared Allah. And I was patient. Yusuf said himself, I feared Allah, I was patient. That's why Allah gave me the status. Don't look for money through haram means. Don't go to uni with haram loans. Don't try to find a shortcut towards highness in the dunya by disobeying Allah. It's anything that's worth working for, you must work for it. I promise you, Allah will raise you and elevate you, thanks and status, and wallahi, you will be high. You'll be high. If only you are a person who is patient and fearing of Allah. إِنَّهُ مَن يَتَّقِي وَيَصْبِرْ. Be patient and have fear Allah. Look at some of the Sahaba. Look at some of the Sahaba. Wallahi, there are so many examples that you can use. But look at some of the Sahaba of the Prophet. They were low, they were humiliated, and then they became what? The most honored of people. One of the best examples that comes to mind is Bilal. Bilal radiallahu anhu was a man who was enslaved, oppressed through slavery, oppressed through racism, because he was an African man. Okay, he was beaten, lashed when he became Muslim. And what did Islam take him to? He became the mu'adhin. The Prophet would lead the prayer, but the one who would call the prayer was Bilal. Now imagine all those people that oppressed Bilal, that lashed Bilal, that whipped him, looked at him down, used to look at him low. And now what happened to them? Now what happened? Bilal's waking them up every morning. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. And they have to go pray now. Bilal's in the front row. Who's the front row? That's where the ones who know the most Quran are. That's where the scholars, they're right behind. They're in the front row. Who gave him that status? Allah. This deen gave him that status. Knowledge, brothers. Knowledge gave him that status. Patience and piety gave him that status. Does that make sense? Anyway, when he had this conversation with Yusuf, Yusuf said, اجعلني على خزائن الأرض إني حفيظ عليم. He said to the king, he said, look, give me the position to look over the treasury. Make me minister of finance, in other words. Make me the minister of finance. Why? Inni hafidhun alim. I'm someone that you can trust. He said, alim, he said, I'm knowledgeable about it. I know this stuff. Why? Because the dream showed that there was going to be 7 years of what? Prosperity, and 7 years of what? Hunger and famine and a lack of provisions. So he's saying, you're going to need someone who can manage this. He said, I can manage it. And through this we learn, because a person shouldn't look for leadership. And Yusuf never looked for leadership. Firstly, the king honored him and raised him already. He said, Inna ladayna makinun amin. He said, today you are someone who is honored. Right? And you are trustworthy. So today you're high. He already lifted him. You already gave him a status of highness. And then Yusuf said, he said, let me take this job. And you should not put yourself forward for leadership. It's not allowed. Leadership is not given to the one who asks. But it's allowed in a situation where it's going to benefit other people. Yusuf understood, if I don't put myself forward here, these people might mash up the provisions and people are going to starve for 7 years. People are going to die. So let me put myself forward because I actually have knowledge that Allah has given me of how to manage these things. Does that make sense? And look what Allah said. Because He gave it to him. Allah said, وَكَذَلِكَ مَكَّنَّا لِيُوسُفَ فِي الْأَرْضِ يَتَبَوَّأُ مِنْهَا حَيْثُ يَشَاءُ. Allah said, and like that we gave full authority to Yusuf in the land to take possession therein as and whenever he likes. Brothers, he was in prison just a second ago. Allah gives honor, Allah gives strength, Allah gives might, Allah gives riches, Allah gives honor. Don't betray Him. Don't try to find a way towards anything high or anything, any success except through Allah. People tell me, I want to be a doctor. You're telling me not to take a student loan. Like, how much? I said, bro, work, save the money. It's going to take me like 5 years. So, you should spend what? Spent almost about a decade in prison. Go work, earn your money. The barakah that will come, the quality that will come, the enjoyment that will come will be greater. Person wants to get married, he says, I see a girl, I have to marry her. Or her dad's being a problem. I'm gonna still marry her anyway. I'm gonna link her, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. Bro, relax. You're trying to do things haram, bro. Do it the way Allah wants you to. Allah will honor you with a wife who will love you, who will honor you, who will obey you, who will give you children, raise your children in a good way. But you want it in a haram way. You want it in a haram way, akhi. This is wrong. Does that make sense? And again, now the famine comes. And what's Yusuf done? Yusuf has managed the provisions very well. He had storehouses set up in which the 7 years in which there was a lot of what? In which there was a lot of food, a lot of provisions. People didn't overeat. They stored it. Because they knew 7 years were going to come where we're not going to have much and we're going to have to rely upon our supply. Like the fable with the grasshopper and the ant. So I'm on the fable thing today. The ant, was it the ant was storing throughout the winter and the grasshopper wasn't? No, the ant was storing throughout the summer and the grasshopper wasn't storing. So when the winter time came, the ant had food because he stored it. But the grasshopper was, either way, it was one of them was storing. Whoever was storing, when the winter time came, what did he say? He was like, I'm chilling, bro. I got food to eat. I stored. The other one didn't store. He just ate the riches. And now winter time comes, bro, you're going to freeze. And you're not going to have no food. Does that make sense? So they were smart here. And what happened was that Yusuf managed to store so much food that the famine that struck people who were outside of Egypt, they would come to Egypt to ask for food. They would come to Egypt to ask for food. And Yusuf would give to every person. He would give. And each person that came, based on how many people there were in the household, he would have a camel that would fill up for them with loads, with the provisions, and he would send it back with them. So he wasn't just benefiting the people in Egypt, he was benefiting what? Even those who were outside of Egypt. Now the scene changes to Yaqub, the father of Yusuf and his brothers. They're going through what? A shortage in food right now, are they not? It's affected them too, but are they in Egypt? Are they in Egypt? They're not in Egypt. But it still affected them. So what do? They make their way towards Egypt to try and get some food. Allah said, وَجَاءَ إِخْوَةُ يُوسُف فَدَخَلُوا عَلَيْهِ فَعَرَفَهُمْ وَهُمْ لَهُ مُنْكِرُونَ. Yusuf's in Egypt, and guess who comes walking through the door? His brothers. He recognizes them, but they don't recognize him. And they're about to now ask him for what? For food. These same brothers that threw him in the well, they wanted to get rid of him, are now coming back to him, not knowing it's him, but their hands open, saying, please help us. I like that, brothers. Allah, He alternates the days and the nights between the people. He gives victory to some and He lowers others. I just want to give you a personal anecdote. It's not really good to talk about yourself, and the Salaf would seek refuge from talking about themselves, and I'm not saying this to kind of push myself forward, but I like to relate to you guys. I just like, sometimes it's important to show you like real life examples. You see what I'm saying? And I give you an example of myself. When we started doing da'wah, we said we're going to do da'wah and we're not going to water the da'wah down. We're not going to do da'wah through music, and we're not going to have events where people are free mixing, and we're going to teach real knowledge. We're going to teach real books, and we're just, we're not going to compromise the religion of Allah like a lot of people do. You go to some events, you think, Akhi, did I just come into Westfields Mall, or did I come to an Islamic lecture? Some of them are like that. Some of you, alhamdulillah, because you started practicing after this da'wah started moving, you maybe not even have seen that. But back when I started practicing, the kind of events that we used to go to were like raves. Wallahi. Some of the events that we would go to were like raves. Men and women mixing everything, da da da. I'll be honest with you. The brothers wanted, there was an event that used to take place once every year. I won't mention its name. But literally, like, the Mandem would wait so they can go find girls there. And literally, you'd go and there's like hijabi girls. This was the practicing girls. They just drop their phone number on the floor as you walk past. And like, I would just link her. I said, that's what the events were like. You know what I'm saying? So we came at a time where we said, no. Number one, we're going to make the events free. Like, look, all these classes we do we charge for them? Do we charge for them? No, we're going to make the events free. And we're going to do it proper. And we're not going to let people talk about the religion and corrupt it. Bid'ah, we're going to refute it. Shirk, we're going to refute it. Does that make sense? Oh, and when we started it, we got attacked. We really got attacked. And people mocked it. Wallahi, they really did. They really attacked us and they really mocked us. And they used to say, oh, just you and like the two people in your room, they're the only ones who believe what you believe. You and the two people in your room are the only ones who believe what you believe. That's it, just you guys. And, no one else is going to really follow you. And you've destroyed yourself. You've destroyed your da'wah. No one's going to listen. There's one particular masjid where there was a guy who used to really talk a lot of smack. Does that make sense? And he used to talk about me online on Twitter a lot. And just talk about our da'wah and say, Salafis and Ahlul Sunnah, these guys are stupid and they're jahil and blah 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 and so on and so forth. Shocking. But what did they do? A couple of years went by, we carried on doing our da'wah, we didn't care. That same masjid called us, telling us to run the da'wah in the masjid. I was like, whoa. You were the ones who kicked us out, you banned us, you blacklisted us, you talked so much smack online, but now you say, hey, basically here's the keys, just do what you need to do. And wallahi, there's been so many examples like that. If I could tell you the examples, there's been people who used to talk so much smack, who used to mock us, and then they come and they say, can you just give da'wah to my son, please? Can you chat to my daughter? She's not really listening. No problem. But just the way that the tables turn. I'm telling you this just to show you that this is real life, wallahi. It's real life. We were oppressed. We were really oppressed. We were belittled. We were humiliated. We were really, really oppressed. But like Allah Azza wa Jal said, إِنَّهُ مَن يَتَّقِي وَيَصْبِرُ. I'm not trying to praise myself in any way, shape or form, but we tried. We tried to adhere towards taqwa and to come with patience. And now, I can genuinely say, and I'm happy to stand corrected, like there ain't no one, and there ain't no da'wah organization in the United Kingdom that's doing more than what this team is doing. And that is from the virtue of Allah. I can say that without boasting, without thinking this is for me or that I'm special, because I know it's not me. Wallahi, I know it's not me. But I can genuinely say that. Ain't no one pack out the masjid the way we pack out the masjid now. Ain't no one pack out Umrah trips the way we pack out Umrah trips. Ain't no one do what we do. It's from Allah. And brothers, I've seen that in every aspect of my life. In my family, my relationships, in terms of my money, my rizq. And I've seen it in so many other people. And these stories of these prophets is enough for us, but sometimes you need just like a real life example. So I thought I'd share it with you, so that inshallah ta'ala you can, what? Have something to relate to. Be patient and have piety, and Allah will raise you and honor you and lift you ranks. So now the brothers, they come to Yusuf, and what do they say to him? They say to him what? They say to him what? They say, can we get some food please? So what does Yusuf do? He loads them up. He loads them up. But he said, after he finished loading them up, he said to them, look, I can only give you, because the rule was, I can only give you money based on how many of you have come. You have another brother, right? Bring him. There was 12 of them, 12 brothers. Yusuf is one, so now 11 are left. But then there was a younger one called Benjamin, as he's called in the Bible. Benjamin was the brother of Yusuf that was the youngest, but just older than Yusuf. So he's the second youngest. He said, bring your brother. If you bring your brother, I will give you some more. I will give you some more.
Yo,
what's going on, bro?
yeah, I got the thing.
What? How much is in there?
20 mil.
You being serious?
Yeah, hold that. It's yours now.
You guys are probably wondering how this dusty looking camera is worth 20 mil. Let me break it down for you. About 6 years ago, some brothers and sisters gave us about £600 in order for us to purchase this camera to make da'wah videos. 6 years later, alhamdulillah, we made well over 1,000 videos and we reached over 20 million plus views on YouTube alone without taking into account all the other social media platforms that we're on. So those people at the time when they gave that money, I don't think they had any idea that that £600 that they gave was gonna go towards a camera that would reach 20 million people who watch videos and they changed their lives after having watched them, who watched these videos and started praying, who watched these videos and accepted Islam. Can you imagine if they were sincere, the kind of reward that they're gonna get on the day of judgment, inshallah ta'ala? But now here's the issue. This camera is 6 years old. I mean, there's cracks in it, it's breaking, it's well past its sell by date. We're trying to take things up to the next level. In order to do that, we need a new camera. In fact, we need more than one. We need more equipment. We need to actually hire a bigger media team. But all of this stuff, it comes with expenses, it comes with costs. And over the next 6 years, inshallah ta'ala, we're looking to reach well over 20 million people. Now look, I'm gonna be direct with you. I'm about to ask you for some money to put towards the da'wah for the sake of Allah. But before I do that, I wanna tell you some figures, some statistics to show you the kind of reward that you might be looking at, inshallah, if you come with sincerity and the donation. Just take a look at the kind of numbers we have over the last 90 days. Over the last 90 days, we received over 1.4 million views on our YouTube channel alone. That's 466,000 views every 30 days. That's 15,555 views per day. That's right. You could be in your sleep, sleeping 6, 7, 8 hours a day, however much you sleep, and just earning a reward, inshallah ta'ala. Why? Because you gave a bit of money that went towards a very big project. Now, with that 15,000 odd views a day, if you average that out across 6 years, which is the lifespan of this camera, do you know how much reward that is, inshallah? That's 34,065,450 views. I don't know about you, but that kind of reward, I need that in my life. This is not the kind of opportunity that we should be passing up, especially if you've got sins. The Prophet ﷺ said that giving charity wipes away sins the way that water, it extinguishes fire. So look, say no more, inshallah ta'ala. I don't feel like I should have to convince you towards giving to a project like this anymore. If you want that kind of reward, you want the da'wah to spread, you want la ilaha illallah to spread across the internet, inshallah ta'ala, then you want to give at the link below to this project. Assalamu alaikum. Peace. Remember, 20 mil, yeah? And that's on YouTube alone.